Say I love you early and often, in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening, and in between. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. Tell your kids and tell them to understand that you love them, even when you're upset. I love you.
Hello, and you're with Aveline Clark on the Six Star Business Podcast, where we have conversations about what it takes to be six star as a six-star leader in a six-star business in a six-star world. And in this episode, I sat down with Sir Royce Briales from Chicago in the USA. He is just a bundle of love and joy, living on purpose, being brave, and going out there to create a solution to a problem that he found very early, I guess, in his career or his working life. And it was a beautiful conversation. Joanne Brooks is my co-host, and the central theme of this is that, core to everything that we do in our business lives, we've got to honor our family. And what he's doing to empower dads is just brilliant, beautiful, and brave. So I encourage you to sit back and enjoy this episode with Sir Royce Briales. Hello and welcome. Here we are. It's another episode of the Six Star Business Podcast, where we do things differently. My co-host today is Joanne Brooks. How are you, Joanne? And we're here with Sir Royce Briales. Have I pronounced that correct, Sir Royce?
Oh, that's perfect. I appreciate that.
Lovely. Well, it's good to have you here.
Yes, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Well, obviously the accent kind of gives it away that you may not be an Australian, where Joanne and I are. So let's kick this off by you sharing a little bit about yourself. Whereabouts are you? Who do you serve? And how do you serve them? And maybe something you like doing when you're not busy serving people.
Yeah, sure. So again, Sir Royce Briales. I am the co-founder of Welcome to Fatherhood. I'm in Chicago, in the United States, on the west side to be exact. Been doing Welcome to Fatherhood since 2016. Actually, since I had my son, that's around the time we became incorporated. It was right around that time when I was having a baby. So kind of aligns. His birthday was actually today.
Happy birthday! Yesterday.
So we had some fun this afternoon. We serve dads. So we started with young dads, but since starting our programming, we've been pretty much effective with pretty much all dads, from young dads to dads that are kind of in the middle. That's kind of where I am. I have a 10-year-old, now a 7-year-old, and a 5-year-old, and also older dads, like even granddadds. We've had a wide spectrum of dads, if you will, all the way up into grandddads. And even worldwide, since the pandemic started, even before the pandemic started, we were meeting in person in the Chicagoland area, but we had to switch to be online on Zoom, which actually allowed us to reach a broader audience. So we actually did a podcast with a few guys from Australia. But yeah, we've been able to branch out and connect with a lot of great people, a lot of great dads, and even moms. So I'm excited to have this conversation with you
guys. Fabulous. So tell me, how do you serve all these dads?
So it's now it's a hybrid approach since the pandemic has kind of died down some. We're able to kind of connect in person. So we do it from having events. We had a block party, actually 2 block parties this summer, where we were able to donate clothes and also feed the community. We had a barbecue. We had we call it the Jesse White tumblers. It was guys coming out doing flips for the kids. Just finding ways to get the community engaged. It's been actually a really nice switch since the pandemic has kind of died down. Been able to connect with people in person now, but also we're continuing to reach out and branch out with people online as well, via our bi-monthly symposiums where we meet on the first and third Thursday of the month to talk about fatherhood topics, and also our podcast, Welcome to Fatherhood interviews. We've released 75 episodes so far. We've interviewed over 100 dads and even a couple of moms on the podcast also. That's been another way we've been able to, dive deeper into, fatherhood and find out what, tips and tricks of the trade dads have to offer, in these times. So it's been a blessing.
That's brilliant. So you're empowering dads, and is it education, empowerment, connection, community?
Yeah, pretty much all those things. We just actually had a stairway series too. That's what we also do. On the last Tuesday of the month, we have a subject matter expert come on and teach about a certain subject. Tonight's subject was about the gift is your present. Talk about mindfulness. So we had a mindfulness expert come on, Harry Goldberg. He's actually from Australia as well. He came on and talked about the mindfulness, and we even meditated live. So we had a nice time. And, we look forward to doing more things like that.
Nice. That sounds really, really encouraging and exciting and rewarding for everybody.
Yeah, very. Yeah, and even for myself as a dad, I found this to be really therapeutic because I'm not the one to kind of speak up and talk about different issues, and going through the symposiums it's kind of forced me to have even open up even more so to speak about my fatherhood experience. So a lot of dads have said that it's been really therapeutic to connect with other dads and talk about just random stuff. It doesn't have to be about fatherhood. It can be about anything, but just having that outlet to connect and talk with other men.
Yeah.
Has been really impactful to a lot of guys so far.
Wow.
Tell me, Sir Royce, what do you do when you're not busy serving?
That's a good question. It seems like I'm always serving, but what I like to do, I like to connect with nature. So what I try to do every day, I try to either go for a walk in the morning, like during the sunrise, or in the evening during the sunset. So I'm pretty sure in Australia it looks beautiful when the sun is going up or going down. But out here in Chicago, we get a nice view off the lake. So I like to take nice little strolls, and I got a watch, a Galaxy watch. I track my steps, so it's a way for me to kind of stay healthy too. So that's one thing I like to do, and also I like to meditate. Also, even while I'm walking, I try to do things to be more present in that moment. So like I'll for example, when I'm walking, I'll count my steps. So I'll count to 10, rinse and repeat, count to 10 again, just to make sure I'm right there in that moment. Because a lot of times I notice for myself, and I can't speak for anybody else, but mind wanders. So especially when you got a lot going on, you're busy. So it's been really a good way for me to really connect with myself and to center myself in that moment.
Nice.
That is nice.
Yeah, it's good. I am interested to learn, Sir Royce, what brought you to set up the organisation in the first place? Like, tell us a bit of the journey that brought you to that
backstory,
to where you are. Yeah,
sure. So, like I mentioned, I was expecting my first child, my firstborn son, in 2015. So, me and Dr. Raheem, that's my childhood friend, actually, we met when we were in kindergarten. That's how long I've known this guy. So we've always had a entrepreneurial spirit. So we would that year in 2015 we would meet and talk about business ideas. Like what can we do for a business? Just to start something fresh between me and him. And he already had 3 kids at the time. So the conversation would start with business and then kind of lead towards fatherhood. Like, man, what do you expect, man? Well, how many times did you wake up in the middle of the night? Like those type of questions. So eventually we were thinking like, man, like why don't we do something for fathers? Like fatherhood. We were talking about it, so why not be about it? So I went home that night. Literally, I Googled it, like fatherhood in Chicago. We had probably like maybe 3 pages on Google for organizations in Chicago. And I Googled motherhood, and it was probably like 50 to 100 pages. Like it was a lot
Yes.
more information for mothers in Chicago than it was for dads in Chicago. So in that moment, I thought, wow, there's a need. So that same night, it really hit me. The name, I was thinking, well, what can we call it? You know, and I thought like Welcome to Fatherhood, WTF. Like thinking of those letters. Like that looks funny on a T-shirt. So I text my friend Raheem, Dr. Raheem, and I said, "That's the name. Let's do it. Welcome to Fatherhood." So shortly after that, maybe a month or two later, we got incorporated, and we've been doing it ever since.
So you developed it out of your own need.
Exactly.
To solve the problem that you had.
Exactly. Yeah. Because we noticed that it was not a lot of support for men or for dads in Chicago. I'm pretty sure it's like that everywhere. Where some men don't even know about support being available to them. So being able to be a resource for men has really been life altering for me, for sure.
Tell me, Sir Royce, you mentioned obviously there wasn't a lot around when you were becoming a dad for the first time. Has there become more resources available for dads, since you incorporated Welcome to Fatherhood? Or are you still fairly unique in the space?
On your own?
Yeah, I say there are some more organizations that have come since we started. There's even other organizations that have grown, since we became incorporated. I'll give you a couple. There's one for sure. They're called Dovetail. They're in Chicago, and like they were on TV on the Ellen Show. They've worked with like sports organizations. Like they've really made a real big impact with young fathers in particular. It's not just us. Like it's definitely some other organizations that are doing great things. There's even more organizations now, but I would say online, if you go online and look up fatherhood, it's probably still not a lot of information out there for dads, and not a lot of people that are doing what we're doing in comparison to mothers. Still, like it's still like a big need. So if any dads or if any moms are listening, I had a mom reach out to me on LinkedIn and said she was interested in starting her own program, her own fatherhood program. And I was like, well, it's definitely a need for it. So I'll say definitely make it happen if you want to make that your choice to do that. I think it's really still a need for it.
So tell me about the program itself, or the programs, Sir Royce. Take me through the life of a father who might come to you and experience what you have. What does that look like?
Yeah, sure. Good question. So, like I mentioned, we have our symposiums. It's twice a month, the first and third Thursday of the month, where we meet. And me and Dr. Young, really has been Dr. Young coming up with the questions. So we come up with about 8 to 10 questions. And we kind of go around the table, round robin style, ask everybody to participate, or give everybody a chance to answer a question. So that lasts probably about 2 hours on a Thursday. Then from there, like I mentioned, we have our podcast. We also have our Stairway series. And also we're working on a curriculum right now where we can basically give people an option to subscribe and get access to resources that we've come up with that'll help you become a better father. So we're working on that right now as we speak. What am I missing? We also have community outreach where we have fathers feeding the underserved. So we have basically we come up with bag lunches, and people donate, goods and perishables, and we pass it around the city of Chicago to people that need them. Also clothing drives, coat drives. We have that. As far as dads going through like a process, the curriculum is the next biggest thing that we're working on towards, helping iron that out a little bit more, helping connect dads with more resources.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And is it also about connecting other dads to dads, like building a network of dads? Like I know women are particularly good at, mothers groups and all those sort of things, which, it's a shared experience. So it might be slightly outside what you're doing directly, but facilitating the ability for these dads to connect with one another and start separate conversations. Is that something that you encourage and offer?
Yeah, for sure. So we have our Facebook group. We actually just cracked 900 members. We're getting up to almost to 1,000 now. So yeah,
Nice.
We have a Facebook group of pretty engaged dads there where we kind of share our own resources, our own experiences with fatherhood, and it's a real open environment. We also have a group on LinkedIn also. I think that has over like 600 people in it so far. So we have
Nice.
a few places where we're connecting with a lot of people, a lot of dads, and sharing these resources. Like tonight when we did the Stairway series, we did it live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and on YouTube. So we were able to kind of be multi-channel in regards to how we spread our message.
Nice.
So yeah, we've been connected with a lot of great people and having a lot of great discussions and conversations around fatherhood.
Amazing.
So how do you view what you're doing as a business, or do you view it different to a business? Like, I'm really fascinated where the line is drawn. Yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely view it as a business. In the nonprofit space in particular, the misconception about nonprofit is that you don't look for profit, which is not true. It's still a business, you still have a bottom line, So yeah, we've received a couple of grants. We're actually finalists for another grant that's coming up. So we can get money that way. Also, we're monetizing our podcast. We have merchandise that we sell, and we're looking to cultivate more partnerships and sponsorships with corporate sponsors as well. We had a sponsorship with Foot Locker. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Foot Locker.
Oh, yeah.
Our last Father's Day, we had a block party, and they sponsored it. So, we're looking to make even more connections like that, as we continue to grow. Because, like I said, it's definitely a nonprofit, but we do care about profit. So.
Yeah,
indeed.
Of course.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
How do you measure the success of what you do?
Well, a couple of ways. We have a survey that we give out during our symposiums. We ask feedback from the people that join, not just what they experienced there, but what they would like to experience going forward. We ask for feedback in our group, and also just from the interaction that we have when we do our symposiums, the engagement that we have in our group when we share certain content like our podcast. Like, we're able to really see, what people are thinking about fatherhood. And it's been really a interesting journey, just this being able to be a liaison for fathers, if you will, in regards to making sure that your fathers are being noticed for being there for their kids. There's a lot of cases where, in media especially, men like on TV or on movies are labeled as deadbeat dads or dads that aren't there. My dad wasn't there. A lot of that narrative is out there. So what we're doing is pretty much shifting that narrative, if you will, and showing more of engaged fathers, people that care about fatherhood, and dads that care about their kids. So it's been definitely been an interesting journey so far.
Amazing.
I was actually going to ask you what one of the biggest issues is that you solve, and would you say that's it? Is the stereotype of dads, or is it something else, or is there more than one big issue?
Well, I would say that's the biggest issue. Just shifting that narrative, changing the narrative about fathers, and especially the dads that aren't in the house with the kids. like we come across a decent amount of dads that ask for help in regards to, how can I get my kids back, or how can I fight to have custody with my kids. So even the dads that aren't there are still making an attempt to be there, and a lot of that story isn't put out there. So especially with our podcast, we're able to kind of talk through that and have like hour-long conversations with these men about their experiences. So we're able to shine a light on the dads that really care, that really want to be there.
What would you say is your purpose for doing what you're doing? And when I say purpose, I mean, what is your reason for being? What's the change you want to see in the world as a result of this?
Yeah, I just want to see, more engaged fathers, more dads that care about being there for their kids. Because you look at a lot of studies that say that if the dad is there, the kid has a better shot. And that's all that really matters, is really that kid. Once you have a kid, it doesn't matter about you anymore. It matters more about the legacy you leave behind and also what you teach your kids. So if we're able to affect one dad to make one dad become a better dad, that could change a generation for a family. Like you just don't know what impact that one dad can make. So being able to connect with dads and have that conversation is it's been really insightful. It's actually helped me become a better dad as well. So I don't overlook that at all.
I wonder, Sir Royce, is there a particular demographic of a dad that comes to your organisation, or is it very well spread across all areas of?
Yeah, good question. So since we started, it's been kind of middle-aged men, like men around my age. I'm in my mid-30s, so I would say mid or early 30s to probably 40s is probably the range. But again, like I said, we get dads that are younger. We dealt with dads that were in their early 20s, and even grandfathers in their 60s and 70s. But if I had to give you an average, I would say probably between 30 and 40 would be the range.
And is the range of what they do for a living and where they are engaged on a daily basis, which is it corporate, is it self-employed, is it a mixture, or do you see a consistency of where they're coming from in what they do?
Oh yeah, it's a very very broad spectrum. So we have entrepreneurs to authors, to coaches, life coaches, people in the financial world, people that work at banks, like real working class people. We've had a good mix. So I wouldn't say it's one particular niche that they're working in. It's pretty much across the board. They pretty much do a lot of different things.
I would suspect that then creates a very rich conversation because they come from all different worlds and have different experiences, right?
No, very nuanced conversations. It's definitely not one way. A lot of dads have different experiences, even how they were raised. A lot of you hear a lot of stories about how they were raised. Maybe their dad wasn't in the home. Maybe their dad was, and their mom was in the house, and they had a good relationship with both their parents. Maybe they had both their parents, but didn't have a good relationship with both their parents. Like it's a lot of different ways.
Any mixture of things, yes.
Yeah, a lot of, and it kind of shapes who they are and who they're becoming. Especially in relation to them being a dad, because I've heard a lot of stories where maybe they didn't have a good experience with their dad, but that shaped them into becoming a better dad themselves.
Better person,
because they didn't want to make those same mistakes that the dad made. So we get a lot of those conversations as well. So it's definitely a lot of deep conversations, if you will.
I bet. I bet. I'm curious, how do they find you? How do they know that you exist and that you're there to support them in Chicago?
Yes. So it started off with word of mouth. So we started off just by telling people and calling people. Like, come online or come over here and meet up with us at this place. And then I started working on doing social media. So when I created Welcome to Fatherhood, I went and created every type of Welcome to Fatherhood you can on every type of social media that you could.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You
Nice.
can even have a Pinterest account. So I don't use it that much. But,
Well,
yeah,
some dads will be there.
yeah, right. I mainly do my outreach on LinkedIn. That's my main focus. I do Facebook too, with the group, but like mainly when I message people like a lot, I go on LinkedIn, especially with the podcast. I reach out to people and engage their interests. Actually, find out what they do. That's kind of my formula. I find out what you do, and then after you tell me what you do, we have a conversation. We don't just get right into I want you to be on my podcast. And we find out about who you are first.
Nice.
But yeah, and a lot of that too. Like when we do the podcast, we'll get somebody that comes from the podcast and comes on a symposium. They might invite somebody to the symposium. So it's been a lot of that type of stuff, a lot of networking since we've been on social media, which has been really nice. That's how I kind of ran into you guys.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the Six Star business is about doing things differently, and you certainly are doing things differently. How do you ensure that you, I guess, are giving that different level of service or experience to all your customers who are the dads?
Yeah, so I believe in having a level of authenticity. So when we have our meetings and our symposiums, a lot of dads say that it feels like authentic, like we're not like trying to sell anything. We just want dads to be better. So I think leading with that has really helped us grow and really gain a lot of trust with dads that talk to us. They're willing to open up and talk more, because they feel like they're in a safe place. So I think that's really important to really be your most authentic self, like no matter what the circumstance is. And then you'll get money from it if you're passionate about it and you put a good structure in place. You can thrive with having a safe place for people to come. So that's what we've kind of cultivated here.
Nice.
Yeah, that's really important. What you just said, the safe space. It's the same for any organization, any place, any business.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's very important. Because you don't want to go to a place where you're not safe. You won't open up as much, or you'll complain about going to that place. So that's one of the places we want to have. We want to have a place where people like to come and invite other people to come too. Because I think that's important to spread the word. And I think probably the best companies I've ever worked for had like a word of mouth type of philosophy. If you do good work, you do good deeds, you do good service, people will find out about you and they'll find you.
Yeah, word will spread. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
So, Royce, I'm really fascinated to learn a bit more about who inspires you and your business partner. Are there others that are role models to you?
Yeah, I would say for me, I have a couple. So I have followed my dad, for example. He was an example. I wouldn't say I wouldn't call him a good example or a bad example. I say he just was an example because he lived his life a certain way. He had a battle with drug addiction in my teenage years. He wasn't in the house, so I saw that. I saw what he went through, and the experience that my mom went through because of it, and it wasn't a good one. She definitely struggled. But she was resilient throughout all that, and she always kept a smile, and it showed me the strength that she had, which is why I smile a lot, probably, because I've seen her do it so much. But even in that situation, like being able to see like the bad that happened, and also seeing the good that came from it, because I had that type of experience. It kind of showed me that I don't want to have to put my kids through something like that again, or pass that down to my kids. So it made me more aware. My grandfather, he was a police officer in Chicago. He was in my life until he passed in 2005. But he was a great example of what a dad should be. My mom, she was a daddy's girl. So he used to always go over there and watch sports, and he was a big baseball fan. So he was a good example of what a dad should be: someone that was there, someone that was consistent, a provider. He was a real big guy. Like he was, I think, like 6'4". That's where I get my height from. I'm that tall too. So he was a big, strong, burly man, and he was a gentle soul. So he was a good example for me too. And also I have so many. My uncle, he was a good example as what to be as a man. He's really a God-fearing man, so he goes to church. He's a minister actually now. So seeing where he was and seeing where he went as he developed, as he got older, like seeing the journey that he went through to become a minister, and to really stick with that, like the consistency. Like I took that from him. Like being consistent is very important, especially when you talk about being a dad. So
yeah.
So those were a few of the examples that I could pull from.
Wow. Diverse, right?
Yeah, very diverse.
And you can draw on all those and share with your members. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, because it's other people that we've talked to that have similar situations that they've been through. Where their dad may have done something wrong or done something right, and they pull from both situations. So I think it's really been great just to hear the stories and to take the gems from it as we get them, because it's definitely been a lot of great stories. And I would say every dad is a template. You know what I'm saying? If you think about it, because you could either do things that certain way or do it a different way. If you choose. So
when you're going about your days, Sir Royce, are you thinking about the imprint you're making in the minds of your own children on you?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, all the time I think about that a lot. I didn't tell you guys about this part, but I'm a divorced dad. So I got divorced 3 years ago, and I'm not with my kids every day. It hurts my soul to not be with my kids every day. Like today was my son's birthday, and I wasn't there all day. Like I went out there to see him, but it's not the same, And I can see that. I can see that they're affected by it. Sometimes my daughter will say, like, I don't want to go home, I don't want to go to school, these things, because she wants to stay with me. And all I can do is say, I understand. It doesn't seem fair. And it's okay to be sad. I'm just there to comfort her in those moments. But it still hurts just seeing her go through that. That's a little version of me. And like it's something that I'm still kind of working through. But I'll say that's been probably the biggest challenge for me as a dad is not being able to be there every day due to the divorce.
Yeah. I'm sure you're able to then relate to a lot of the other dads who aren't living permanent full time with their kids as well, who go through those struggles and challenges.
Yeah, for sure. We have those conversations all the time, and probably the biggest thing that we get from dads when we ask dads, like, what advice would you give to a dad? Number one answer we get is be present, like be there, not just be there, but be present. Like if your kid's playing a video game, like don't just walk away and go in your room and do your own thing. Go down there and sit with them. Maybe grab a controller, play with them. See what he's up to. I think what I know is with my kids, when I play video games with them, they'll open up more when I'm talking to them. I'll ask them questions like, "Hey, how's things going at school?" Because you know how when you ask those type of questions, sometimes the kids give you the one-word answers. It's okay. It's all right.
Yes. I think we've all experienced that.
Like when I get down on the floor with them and start being with them, like really being present with them, then they'll open up more and start telling me more about the intricacies of their day, like the ins and outs, like what's going on, like really what's going on. So it's been really interesting to see that part, me implementing that part in my own fatherhood journey, how that's helped me kind of better connect with my kids.
Mm.
So I would say if anybody's listening to this right now, if you're thinking about, being a dad, be present. Work on your mindfulness now, because you're going to have to really use it when you become a dad, when you become a mom.
Yeah. Like counting your steps on your walk that you do of a morning. Yeah. Be right there. Yeah. Enjoy the moment. Yeah.
Because they're only kids for a certain amount of time. Like
they grow up so fast.
Yeah, my daughter's 5 now. My oldest son is 10. Like I don't know where those 10 years went. Like it happened so quick. And once they're not kids anymore, they're not kids anymore. So enjoy the journey. Really get in the sand with your kids. Play with your kids. Have tickle fights with your kids. It's okay.
Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah.
It's such simple advice, but it's also the advice that we kind of nod along a lot of the time and don't do. There's always something that gets in the way or can, and I'm guilty of that, running my own business or two. And, there are little things that I miss, and then the times when I'm conscious and I put everything down and I just say no, and I go and sit with my kids or I do stuff with them. And you're right, Sir Royce, they open up and they chat and they talk. And it does make a big difference, a huge difference. And it also makes me feel like a better person because I feel like I'm actually honouring them, respecting them and being the mother that they deserve.
Yeah, like it feels good to see the weight lift off their shoulders. Like after they let it go, like after they tell you what's bothering them or just talk to you in general. Some kids want to be heard. I just think it's really important to really sit down with your kids, not just sit down and drill them with questions, but like sit down with them while they're playing or sit down with them while they're watching the show. Just ask them a couple questions and see where it goes.
Yeah. And I will say from experience, my daughter is close as 26 tomorrow, and having used that practice as a young child, it's those conversations she needs as an adult. And she lives on her own now, and she's self-sufficient and working. But she actually said to me, because at one point I was her boss as well, and she said, "No, I just want to talk to you as a mum." Which is lovely that she still wants to do that. So you're creating a beautiful ritual in your family. It'll hold you in good stead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Oh, pleasure. That's amazing. It's lovely to hear a dad speaking this way and having this lovely mindfulness and awareness of what it is to be a parent. Brings joy to my heart.
Yeah, mine too.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
I just want to say also how important this is. And whilst this is we talk to people who are in business, this is actually part of our life.
Absolutely.
Everything's interconnected. We can't separate out a role and say, oh, I'm a parent over here and I'm a business owner over here and a husband or a wife over here. They're not separate things. This is actually, we're like this. Everything is interconnected.
Yeah.
And so this is very relevant to all of us as business owners who are parents or going to be parents. It's important to then create the practice of being present and doing the things and the rituals and spending that time. And especially as a business owner like us, if we have that luxury of choosing our time, our schedule, right, when can we spend that time with our kids? And I know that quite a lot of the business owners I speak to on this podcast also who work from home, they do that. I was speaking to one last week and he was talking about how he goes and plays soccer at the soccer fields in the afternoon. So between 3 and 7, there's nothing in his work calendar because that's pick up kids from school and then play with them. And, after dinner and all that, then he'll go back and do some work in the evening. And there's more people that I speak to who do the same thing. We have the ability to do that. So let's be creative and play. It's actually really good for our creativity and productivity as a business owner if we are making the time
these efforts
to play with our kids. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm super curious, Sir Royce, when you started this business, did you have a conversation with your children to say, this is what I'm going to be doing and why? And what was their reaction?
So I didn't really have that conversation with my kids. My middle child, now that that's 7, he was just being born around that time when we got started.
And
early
days.
10-year-old was 4. So
Okay.
I didn't have any conversations with him. I talked to him about it as we started growing and doing it more. Especially when we started doing like the podcast and we started like generating money. Like, okay, this is a real thing now. So let me bring you into my world a little bit. I'll bring them to our events. So we just had, like I said, we had a block party, and I had them come and help, set up. I had them come and help, like kind of clean up after we got done, picking up the tables and the chairs. So they were part of the business. So they, they put in the work too. I think that's important too, to show your kids that work is required.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, that's gold.
So I'll talk to them more about it now, opposed to when I first started.
Yeah, of course. That's great. And I think it's really important because ourselves and all the listeners, we can all become incredibly busy and we can become distracted from what should be important in our lives. And I think what I've heard from a lot of business owners is to say that they feel disconnected from their family and the family doesn't understand why they put the hours in that they do. But if you have the conversation with your family and your children, well, this is why I'm doing it, this is what it's going to look like, well, then you take them on the journey and they may not understand fully because they're either young or don't have the skill set, but to share why you do what you do with your family is such an incredible, important piece for the family unit.
Yeah. It even shapes who they become in a way too. Like my oldest, he wants to be an entrepreneur, like already.
Right.
So he has his little notebook. He writes down his plans. He has a business plan. He draws logos. So he's already has that mindset. I think a lot of us. I think I would have been an entrepreneur a lot sooner if I would have seen it a little more growing up.
Exposed to it.
Yeah. So having my kids be exposed to it at a young age, just kind of helping them, see that it's possible to do it themselves.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh,
really neat.
That's beautiful. So Royce, as we come to a close, I would love to know, what's something that you want to leave our listeners with. Actually, there's something I do want to ask you. What's been the greatest highlight of this journey with Welcome to Fatherhood since you started it?
I would say one of the biggest highlights, we were able to present at a medical conference. So we flew to Denver, Colorado. This was last October, and we had a talk. We did two presentations on the effects of abortions on men. So we were able to do some research. We had a focus group of men that went through that process. So we were able to get a lot of information from that. We got some really great feedback from that conversation or that meeting or that discussion that we did. And we got invited back to do another session with the medical conference, it's the EP088 medical conference. It's a really big, I think 1,000 or 10,000 people come to the conference. So it's real big. I think another one is one of the last grants we had to go receive the grant. It was like they had a presentation for us, not just for us, but like for other organizations. It was cool being announced in front of a whole auditorium full of people. They kind of explained what we did, what we've been up to, and gave us a check right there in the auditorium.
Awesome.
Got nice applause. It felt good. like get recognized.
Yeah, validated. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
that's a good word for it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Very
Okay.
good. Yeah. Very rewarding and affirming, validating for what you're doing and the impact that you're making, which is just fabulous.
Yeah.
You're welcome. I know you've given advice and some amazing things in this conversation. So, but is there any sort of tidbit or little piece of any gold nugget you'd like to leave our listeners with before we finish up?
Say I love you early and often, in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening, and in between. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. Tell your kids. Make them understand that you love them, even when you're upset. I love you.
That's beautiful.
I think it's really important for young kids in particular. Like my daughter, I play a little game with her. Like I'll whisper in her ear, like, I got a secret for you. I got a secret. And she already know what I'm about to say, but she'll ask, like, what? What is it? I love you. Like, I knew it. You're gonna say I love you. But she gets a kick out of it, so I do it all the time. So,
it's beautiful. I suspect you get a kick out of it too.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I get a kick. She gets a kick out of it.
That's lovely.
Say I love you to the people that matter to you. Even not even just your kids. Like it could be your parents or close friends. Don't be afraid of those 3 words because they're very important.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Sir Royce. I think we're all kind of, everyone listening to this is probably pausing then and their mind is spinning going, whoa, when was the last time I said it? Oh, okay. Okay, yes. How can I say this more often? So you've given us plenty of things to think about and be grateful for. I just want to thank you so much for everything that you're doing for parents, not just men, and for children because of the impact on the kids that you're making through what you're doing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're very welcome. Definitely glad to be on and would love to be on again. So don't be a stranger.
Yeah.
No. Not at all.
Thank you, Sir Royce. It was great. I really enjoyed listening to you.
Yes, you're very welcome. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you.